and welcome to today's episode of the Business Meets Fitness podcast with your host, Lauren Tickner. And today we have a guest on who has an absolutely incredible story that is going to motivate you to take action. So make sure you listen through the whole entire episode. And if you are enjoying this episode, please do take a screenshot, share it on your Insta story, tag me at Lauren Tickner, and also tag at Business Meets Fitness. I appreciate you so much when you do that. So without further ado, let's crack straight into today's episode. Hello, Celine. Welcome to today's episode of the podcast. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fabulous. Thank you. I'm so excited to have you on. I'm glad we're able to link up because I absolutely love your story and everything that you're doing for the world. So would you just be able to introduce yourselves to the listeners of the Business Meets Fitness podcast and just give them a little bit of a background of what it is exactly that you do?
Yes, my name is Celinne Da Costa, and I am a professional storyteller. So that translates into the role of I'm a brand story coach. I do some social media influencing work, and I'm a writer.
Amazing, amazing. So how did you get into all of this and everything that you're doing today?
Well, that's it was a journey for sure, but it started with identifying what I don't want and what I didn't want with my life. So I've been doing this for about 2 years, and this was right after I quit my corporate job in New York City and left with a one-way ticket to see the world. And I had a social experiment that I did that I'm happy to get into later. And because of the social experiment and because of the people I met and the things I accomplished during these 9 months of full-time traveling, I just naturally fell into this place where I realized that story was my path, and I needed to create a job or jobs out of telling stories and sharing them with the world.
I absolutely love that. So what were you doing before in your old corporate job? Because I, in fact, just made a podcast the other day about why I quit my corporate job when I was working in asset management, a really, really good job that I quit because I was unhappy and because I felt like I was having to hold so much back, and so much potential I had inside of me was just not able to come out through working in that corporate job. So was it a similar thing for you?
I felt like I was closed in a space, obviously not literal space, but actually, a cubicle. But I was doing strategy work and advertising. And I think that what really got under my skin was this idea that I was working 10 to 12 hour days to essentially create, which I love to do. I love to create, and I love the actual strategy work of the job. But what I didn't like is that I was doing it without impact, without meaning. So I was spending all this time and all these resources and this life energy creating for brands that I didn't feel really cared about the impact that they were having on the world, or that they were just, doing it for the marketing so that they can create more money so that, they can report to somebody that they did a good job. And I just asked myself, what is the point of this? I just feel so disconnected from myself, from people around me. And I feel like I've always had this sense of, I want to serve people. I want to help people in what I do. And I just felt like I was making some faceless corporation money, and I just was not okay with it.
Yeah, I absolutely could not agree more. I feel like a lot of times for these big companies, the money, I guess, is their way of seeing success. And there's just so much more to life and working and everything than just money. It's all about the impact that you're having in the world. And I think I'd love it if you'd be able to tell the listeners, kind of give them a bit of a comparison of your life then to what your life is all about now.
Yes. So we're going to fast forward and not talk about the nitty gritty just yet in between. But, back then, my life was, I lived in New York City. I worked in a corporate job, 60-hour weeks. And I just, came in, went into the office, did my work, checked out, and then, went to go get drinks or hang out with my friends. And I had the weekends to, do the things I actually liked and wanted to for myself. And now, like I mentioned, my main job right now is I'm a brand story coach, and I get to handpick my clients. I only work with other people 2 days out of the week. I have my set hours for my phone calls, and then the other days of the week, I'm still working about 40 to 50 hours, but it doesn't really feel like work at all, because what I'm doing is creating every day. I'm setting time aside to write. I'm setting time aside to coach people through stories, to create content. And then I travel full time. So I can take my phone calls from anywhere in the world. I can set my own hours. I wake up when I want to. I create my own routines. So my time is back under my control. And if I want to work 50 hours, which I do because I love what I do, then I will. If I want to take a month off, which I'm doing in next week, I'm just going to take a month off to travel and hang out. I do that too. So it's really up to my mood and my mind space.
That's amazing. So it's all about the fact that you've created the life that you wanted to create for yourself. And so you've done this through essentially creating this brand all around yourself, really. And you kind of rely on yourself to have that freedom. And so how is it that you've managed to create this idyllic life for yourself?
Well, I would say number one is intention, right? And number two is clarity. And number three is action. So intention, clarity, and action, I think, are the three pillars that I've really built my life around. So first of all, I decided that I wanted something more, right? So my intention was this idea that I want to live a life where I've always loved travel. It's always been a part of me. And I was like, I want to see the world, and I don't want to wait 2 weeks out of the year, 3 weeks out of the year to go to see maybe 2 countries, 5 days each. That just doesn't feel like visiting or understanding something to me. So I was like, well, what's the life I want to live? I want to travel. I want to meet people. I want to have real human connections, not just the stupid hi, how are you, things that you say as you pass your coworker. I wanted to have and I wanted to write, because it's just something I'm very, very passionate about, is writing. And I realized, okay, these are the things I want, and now let's get real clarity on how I'm going to get them, right? So this idea of okay, what's the job that I want? I wrote down the job that I want. I said, I didn't know the title. I knew that I wanted to help people. I knew that I wanted to tell stories. I knew that I wanted to take it on the phone, and all these logistics, from basically the type of feeling that I want to feel when I'm working it, and the way that it actually looks like, the way that, the hours that I'm working a week, or the nitty gritty, essentially. And then I realized, okay, I know what I want. I know why I want it. And now what do I need to do? I need to do it, right? So that's where the strategy comes in, and the tactics. It's this idea of reverse engineering to get to where you want. So I just had to figure out, how was I going to get to this place that I wanted to? And I knew that I needed to create a brand that people would recognize, so that they would want to work with me, so that they would want to feature me. So they, all these things would happen. I understood inherently that for me to get what I wanted, I needed to be what I wanted. And that's how I was going to attract that.
I absolutely love what you just said, that in order to get what you wanted, you need to be what you wanted. And so everything about reverse engineering is super interesting to me as well, because I think that through reverse engineering something, you really can kind of create the thing that it is that you want to create. And I think a lot of times people are maybe stuck in a job they hate, and they don't really know how to get out. Mm-hmm. So if you were to be giving someone kind of some advice in order to get themselves out of this position where they feel so stuck, they feel lost, they feel like you did when you were literally stuck inside of that cubicle, what would it be?
What would it be? Sorry, can you repeat that one more time?
If you were to kind of be giving somebody some advice, if they were wanting to get out of this position of feeling so stuck in their life, is it all about kind of getting that clarity and finding what your real purpose is? If
I had to give them advice, it would be the way that I did it: intention. Figure out what you want. Figure out what you really want out of your life, and how you actually want your life to look like. Then I would tell them to get real crystal clear on how that's going to look like. And that's always subject to change. But if you're like, oh, well, I want a new job, it's like, great. Congratulations. You figured out that you don't want to be in your job anymore. But now it's like, what do you want? Right. And it's like, you don't have to be like, oh, well, I want this position in this company. That doesn't have to be that way. It could be, I want a job that gives me flexibility. I want a job that lets me have more time with my kids, that pays me at least X amount of money, that allows me to travel, that doesn't make me travel, right? So that is like this idea of like gaining clarity and then being like, okay, well, what are you going to do? Take action. If today you're like, oh, well, I can't afford it, or like, I can't just quit my job today because I have a project or blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, what can you do today? Can you go on the internet and Google some options? Can you have a conversation with a friend? Can you meet with somebody who does something similar to what you want to do and ask them how they did it? So it's this idea of like, it's not just about wanting something else. It's about knowing what you want. And then it's about doing something about it.
Amazing. Yeah, so much truth. I absolutely love everything that you just said just then. So now I just want to kind of spring back into what it is that you do today, which is all about storytelling. Because as you're speaking to me here now, the way you talk to me is just everything, every word is in a position in your sentence that just makes it sound so perfect. So I'd love to know more about what it is that you kind of do with your clients in helping them with their brand messaging and their storytelling, because I know that personal branding is a huge thing for you, like you mentioned before. So how do you work with your clients, and what is the whole purpose of everything that you do?
Absolutely. So my vision is really to empower these, I call them active dreamers, and which tend to be entrepreneurs. It's people who dream and then want to do something about it, right? So my vision is to really empower these active dreamers to create and share their stories so that they have the tool set that they need to change the world, to make the impact that they want to make. Mm-hmm. So, the way that looks like in terms of my job is I work with specifically brands, but specifically entrepreneurs and people who are really just on a mission to change the world. And what happens is that when you're in the midst of creating a business or scaling a business, because a lot of the people I work with are like high-level six-figure earners, when you're in the midst of scaling, you have the business part figured out. Maybe you know how to make money, you know how to create structure, you know how to like make a process, build a team. You have all that stuff figured out, but what tends to happen is that brands or people, they disconnect with their reason why, right? Or maybe they lose sight of it, or it becomes dogmatic, or they get so caught up in marketing jargon that they basically forget that every person, like from a personal branding level and also from a branding, like your business level, there is heart and soul behind everything, right? And when you express that heart and soul, when you're able to actually communicate that into the world, you are going to attract the type of people you want to attract. You're going to manifest the sort of results that you want to manifest, because the narrative that you tell yourself on a personal and business level actually has the power to determine your reality, to the reality that you manifest around you. So where I come in is I help people gain extreme clarity on that story. And not only that, I help them execute on it in a way that they're able to communicate and talk about it in a way that feels aligned with their heart and soul. And when they're able to do that, guess what happens? They're attracting the right people. They're able to scale their business because because businesses need to a certain point. You're only going to get to a certain point until you need a bigger reason why you're doing what you do and creating the impact that you create. And yeah, you're creating a story that other people can actually relate to and be influenced by. And it's both an internal and external journey, because guess what happens when you create that story? It's something you believe in as well. So I help people basically get through that journey so that they can get the result that they want out of their life and their business.
That's amazing. That's so interesting and so true what you said about when people when you know your why, it's a lot easier to get other people on board really with what it is that you're doing. And I think a lot of times people kind of have these kind of half-hearted ideas as to why they're doing what they're doing. But when you have that extreme clarity, it's much more possible to build a community around what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And I think a community is such a big thing, because then you're able to kind of have this real purpose, and other people get on board with what it is that you're doing. So what you mentioned, just backtracking to the beginning of what you first said, is that a lot of times you feel you see your clients, they'll have like their business all sorted and maybe not their personal brand and their story. I think it's really interesting because I think it can be the other way around as well. A lot of times people may have built up kind of like a big personal brand, but they might not have their whole kind of business mindset on and stuff. And so I just found that a really interesting point because I'd never really thought about it the other way around before. I'd only really seen the side where people have a huge personal brand, but they have no idea what they're doing business-wise. So I thought that was just like extremely, extremely interesting. So, are you wanting to build a successful personal brand that you know how to do business with? Well, if that's you, then make sure to click the link in the show notes because I have a course called Impact Through Influence. And Impact Through Influence is a personal branding course. This personal branding course not only teaches you how to grow your social media following, but it also teaches you how to monetize it. It teaches you how to build an email list. It teaches you all the things that you need to know for long-term success. It teaches you how to stand out in your niche, how to even find a profitable niche in the first place. Whatever it is that you may be having doubts and confusion about, I can tell you now that the course covers it. So click the link in the show notes to not only see the full entire list of content, and there's over 80 lectures in there, 80 lectures of so much info. And also when you hit that link, you can join the email list, and on the email list you get free personal branding advice that is tailored to your needs, emailed directly with so much value always. So make sure to go click that link in the show notes because Impact Through Influence comes out on the 31st of March 2018. So if it's long into the future, the course is out now. If it's just a few days before, make sure to jump on that email list. But whatever happens, go check out the content, because I know you're going to love it if this episode is firing you up. Because if this episode is firing you up, then it shows that you are someone that has so much more. So make sure you take your life into your own hands. You do something about it, because just like Celinne was saying, it is all about taking action. And if you have all these ideas in your head, what is the point without taking action? So anyway, let's jump straight back into the episode, and do make sure, if you are enjoying it so far, to take a screenshot and share it on your Instagram story. I would also love to know how you're going to be implementing action, because I see action as the most fundamental thing for change, as the most fundamental thing for reaping rewards, and the most fundamental thing for success. That, coupled with sometimes you might need a little bit of guidance and help along the way. Perhaps, you might need some guidance and help to start building up your personal brand. It is okay to ask for help. It is a great thing to invest in yourself, to do courses, to get a mentor, whatever it is. If you are taking action to help yourself live your best life, and to live a life that you love, and to live a life that is helping other people live a life they love, and to achieve the things that they want to achieve, then that is what's all about. It's all about providing value and all about making the most of your life. How do you feel that it kind of impacts their overall lifestyle as a whole and their business through having their personal brand?
Creating a personal brand?
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's your gold. Personal brand is your gold. It's the one thing that nobody can take away from you. It's your currency as you move through the world. So your personal brand, I see it as, back in the day, I used to be like, like personal brands. Like, I don't want to be fake. I don't want to, I don't want to basically create this persona so that people will buy me. And I actually realized that personal branding doesn't have to be that way at all. And if it is that way for you, you're doing it wrong. To me, I've learned to reframe personal branding, and my personal definition of it is identifying and bringing to life the best version of yourself. So it's really basically identifying who do I want to be? What do I want to create in this world? What do I want people to walk away with that's actually aligned with who I am? And then how do I actually become that person? Or get a step closer to being that person? It doesn't mean you're not. For example, one of the big things about my personal brand that, when I poll my audience, when I ask people, what is it that you like the most about me? It's this idea of, relatable, authenticity. And they like that I'm very honest, almost to a polar point sometimes. But the thing is that, yes, I am relatable. I am authentic. And I am those things already by nature. I am those things, but I created a personal brand that's revolved around authenticity, to the point where it's even in the moments where maybe I am straying away from authenticity, I am reminded to come back to that authenticity, because that is the best version of myself. That is my personal brand. So it's like, I honor that brand. It's basically identifying what are the things about you that make you unique, that make you special, that make people want to be influenced by you, want to learn from you. And then you activate those things and almost elevate them by talking about them, by creating a reputation around them. And then, of course, the third step of that, you honor them, right? You honor, if I've created a reputation around being authentic because I'm authentic, and so I've amplified this idea of authenticity, then that's something I'm going to honor, right? Because I built it. It's not like I was like, oh, I'm going to be like, it's not like I picked a quality out of the air that's not even like aligned with who I am. And then I'm like trying to be that person, and I'm not, because I feel like it's going to sell. It's like, this is who I am. I'm going to be better at it every single day. And in the days where I like forget to or slip up, I remember that this is who I am. And this is the person I committed to. And when you have basically creating this ideal version of yourself that you're giving out into the world. And that doesn't mean, by the way, that you're not being vulnerable, right? It doesn't mean that the days that I'm having a bad day and I'm not that ideal self, like I talk about my weaknesses all the time, very openly. But it's just this idea of like, let's create, your brand, create yourself, and continue doing that and sharing it with the world. And it's a ticket. It's a ticket for you to be listened to, for why people should listen to you. It's a ticket to get you, depending on what your goals are, to get you featured on press, to open opportunities for you, whether that be like a job interview or like, if you're applying for something. It's just a way for essentially someone to get a scan of who you are as a person and be like, yes or no within 2 minutes. The same way that you would with a brand.
Definitely. And it's also the same way that you would with the CV. I feel like your personal brand has kind of become your CV now. If people want to work with you, they won't look at your CV. They'll look at what you're doing in the world and what you're like and how you're coming across on all these various different platforms, whether it's in the press or on social media. If you're on a smaller scale or whatever, it doesn't matter, because it all relates down to this one thing, and that is freedom. And having freedom to do whatever you want, Celine, I think is something that you are portraying in such an incredible way. Now, I would like to touch upon this whole Nomad's Oasis thing that's going on, because I know that you were talking all about the fact that you went traveling for a while, and you travel and you live your whole entire life based around travel. But what's this? I saw on your website the whole Nomad's Oasis. So do you want to just delve into that? Tell the listeners all about it.
Yes. So the Nomad's Oasis, actually, funny, started off as a travel blog a few years ago and evolved into the project that now is my social experiment. So the social experiment that I did back in 2016 is called the Nomad's Oasis. The Nomad, me. Oasis is this idea of finding a place of refuge, a place of beauty and understanding, and where you can be safe, and have connection with yourself anywhere you go. So the project was, I decided to circumnavigate the globe by couch surfing, but with a twist. I never actually used the couch surfing website, and all I used was human connection. So everyone that I stayed with, that was a challenge, that every place that I wanted to go around the world, I would have to stay with somebody who was connected to me somehow. So a friend of a friend, a friend of a friend, and you just kept going up until like 7 connections was the most that I had. And so what I did is I made my way around the world, just meeting strangers or friends, people who were connected with me somehow, but I didn't really know most of them, staying in their homes, literally just sleeping in their homes, and having these moments of true human connection around the world. And I realized from that journey, I stayed with over 70 people over the course of 9 months, all the people who opened their door to me. And what I came to understand is that we truly are connected. Everyone is connected to one another. And not only that every single person has something to teach you if you're willing to listen, if you're willing to open your mind and actually be present and aware and willing to absorb what people have to say. It doesn't have, I had these moments where I got like some crazy words of wisdoms from like like Nepali monks, but then I had these moments where I got equally as valuable words of wisdom from like a villager who like had little to no education. So it doesn't really matter who it's coming from, but everybody does hold a key, and to unlock something inside of yourself. And that's something that I learned. And, from a professional standpoint, that project really grew my following. It got me featured in a bunch of publications. So it was not only, heart opening and transformative for me on a personal development level, but it was also transformative for me in a career level, because now I teach people how to tell stories, but you can only imagine how many stories I've heard people tell, and the ways that I've seen people's lives be dictated by the narratives they tell themselves. So it all ties together, like what I do and the project that I did and the reason why I'm here in this moment. And I have, the followers that I have, the tribe that I have, it's all connected.
I love that so much. That sounds like a truly incredible experience that you've been through. And I know that after that you wrote a book. So how did that come about? Is it because you felt just like you just learned so much and you just wanted to share it with the world?
Well, I'm a writer at heart. That's what I've always done. So I absolutely love writing, but essentially what I was doing as I was traveling is I was writing a story every day.
Okay,
So
I didn't know that.
Yes, the book is a collection of short stories from that trip around the world.
Right.
Circumnavigation. And I was writing a story every single day about either someone I met or something that I did or like a connection that I had, that really showed me what it means to be human, and that's where the title comes from, The Art of Being Human. And I decided, a lot of it I was posting on social media, and that's how I grew my Instagram, was through doing that daily story. And that's what I became known for. And then it just got to a point where I was like, I feel that this collection of stories like needs to be put together in a cohesive way that someone can hold in their hands. And I put together the book, and it's a collection of short stories from my travels around the world. And basically I cherry pick them because obviously there's a lot more pages. The book is a curated version of those stories. And I'm actually working on a bigger memoir right now, but it's a bigger undertaking of a project. So that might take a couple years, also about that journey. Mm-hmm. But it's a quick way for people to kind of get thrown in there and understand what the main lessons and what were the main things that I found.
That's absolutely incredible. I'm definitely going to have to, I'm going to have to take a look at that. That's awesome. So I just wanted to ask you, so through doing this experience, is that kind of where so you said that's where you built your following. Is that where everything started for you with regards to kind of your personal brand, really?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, my personal brand was something that kind of started developing because, again, I come from a strategy background. I worked in advertising. So I did have that like foundation of like, how does marketing work? Like, what do people need? But I also had this like genuine desire to share myself and share my story. And when I realized that, I never had the intention to like grow a following or get featured. Like, it wasn't like something that was my goal. My goal was to share what I had to say. And as a writer, I have a lot of things to say. So, I started writing things and I just started to see immediately. And I knew where to put them because of my marketing background. I knew what hashtags to use. I kind of understood like how I needed to make everything as efficient as it possibly could be, every piece of content. And I realized that people were responding, that they were being influenced by the things that I was saying. And once I picked up on that, that's when I was like, okay, well, I'm going to create my brand. And I kind of figured a lot of things along the way. But the second I basically got a hold of what was happening, I essentially just implemented a bunch of tactics to blow it up and to really, get featured in more places, using the right headlines, using the right story. So it starts like tactics are simple and easy to figure out. You ask people who have done it, you Google it. And that's the easy part. The difficult part is strategy and actually aligning your like what you want and your intention with like what you're actually creating. And once you get clarity on that, then boom, like you can do anything you want, and that's my personal brand. The second I realized why I even cared to develop it, why I was doing it, what was my intention behind it, which has always been to grow as a human being and also help others grow with me. Once I got that, once that clicked in, it was just a matter of implementing the right tactics to really put my name out there.
Yeah, so true. I think also something so important that you mentioned was you kind of began everything never really with the intention of beginning anything. And I think kind of nowadays, so many people want to build their personal brand, but again, they don't know why. They just maybe like the idea of having tons of followers. But what's the point in having tons of followers if you don't have a real clear message and a real clear intention on what it is that you're wanting to essentially provide them with? Because that's what it's all about. It's all about providing value and being able to help other people along their journey, no matter what it is, really. Everyone has all different things and different things about what they're doing. So I'd love to know what it is. And I know, Celine, you write for Forbes, which is really cool. Forbes is a good old favorite of mine, but that's actually how I found you, funnily enough. So what's your kind of biggest aim, as it were, when you are posting all these articles to Forbes? What's the message that you're planning to get out and put out, into the world?
Yes. If you read anything I write, whether obviously Forbes is more business oriented, I come with it with a business point of view. But, even I write for several other publications, whether it be travel publications or myself, like you're going to see a pattern, which is this idea of one, human connection, two, life design, and three, self-discovery. Mm-hmm. So what I write specifically for Forbes is I want people to understand and believe how it is absolutely possible to design your life if you want to, right? So with Forbes specifically, I come at it from a more technical point of view, basically being like, how can you create your own story? Like step 1, step 2, step 3. Like look at this person who is designing the life they want to. Look at this person who's earning 6 figures, and they're traveling the world, and they're working like X amount of, not that many hours a week, So my aim and intention there is to show people how it's totally possible for you to like design the life that you really want to live and want to be happy with, and not just tell them about how great it is and how like amazing and look at me and look at these people and look how cool, but actually being like, this is how, like you can actually take steps to do that. And I'm really like, to me, I write for myself. So I'm going to write no matter what, but the reason why I even bother to write for the public is to provide them with value.
Mm-hmm. That's what it's all about. That is what it's
my article. I want them to walk away with something that they can actually use, whether that's inspiration, motivation, or a literal to-do list. They need to have something. Otherwise, I did not do my job.
Oh my gosh, I could not relate more. I think that putting out content is all well and good if it's for entertainment, but the most important thing is that you're actually providing kind of steps and actions that people can take in order to take away from it. Because, living a life that's actually impacting other people's lives is so incredible. And the fact that you're able to do it all on your own terms, like it is so possible nowadays. We have everything at our fingertips. The internet is not, if you're not using the internet to create an impact on other people's lives, you're not making the most of it. Seriously. So I love what you said there. And I think that that's really cool. And so a lot of what it all comes back to, all of your content, it seems to be all about this whole, like you were saying, designing your own life, but also just the idea of freedom, having total freedom, creative freedom, freedom of movement, freedom of everything. And so this is something, Celine, that I think is absolutely amazing, that you're showing people that you can live a life with all of that freedom. And so I just think I think that's really cool. So when it comes to designing your life, what are the next steps for Celine?
Well, I think that I'm going to continue creating my brand story coaching. I've been doing a lot of one-on-ones with these really high-level entrepreneurs, and I've loved to see what they're creating because of our work together. But I think that something that's super important to me is to actually be able to make my brand story framework and the work I'm doing more accessible to more people. So I'm actually working on creating a course so that people can learn, either young businesses or people who want to develop that personal brand can learn how to create my framework for creating like a really effective brand story. So I'm working on that. And then I'm still working on my memoir, which is, little by little, chipping away at it whenever I can. But my big focus in the next few months is to really scale and grow my brand story business, and to do so in a way that I'm able to continue offering like the premium work that I do with my one-on-one clients, but also be able to give that help and the key insight and share them with more people through a course. And then continue to travel, because that's what I love. That's why I'm in this for, is to see the world, feel the world. So that's definitely, once I stop traveling, then I'm not doing what I want to do. So
that will never happen, because you are creating that life that you want to live. And I think it's really cool. And I think like so many young entrepreneurs nowadays really are showing that it really is possible, because realistically, we're just normal people who are taking our lives into our own hands just through taking action, because that's what it's all about. It's all about taking action and just not being afraid of failure, because something that I live by is that you never lose, you learn. Because it's so true.
You never lose your what?
You never lose, you learn.
You never lose your?
You never lose, you learn.
Oh, you learn. Okay, yes, perfect. I love it. Sorry, I got tripped up with the accent. I was like,
sorry.
You learn what?
That is so funny. No, that's been amazing. It's been great to have you on the show today. And I don't know if there's any kind of final remarks that you'd like to leave with the listeners about kind of designing their own life or anything.
I would just say you got to take action steps and start today. If you want something, if you're just standing there at the crossroads, you can be sure as hell that nothing's going to happen tomorrow, right? But if you do one little thing today and another little thing tomorrow and another little thing the next day, maybe you'll be motivated to make it into an even bigger thing next week. But you can be sure that things are going to progress, because when you act, like life reacts, But if you're just standing there, nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to change. So do something. Take action.
I love that. When you act, life reacts. That's one of the best little quotes I've ever heard.
Ooh, thanks.
I like it.
I gotta write it down for myself.
Yeah, I just wrote it down. Don't worry. By email so you never forget. Amazing, Celine. Okay, that's been brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. It has been an absolute honor.
Yay! Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So that wraps up today's episode of the Business Meets Fitness podcast. I hope you have liked it, and I hope it has inspired you in some way. I would absolutely love to know how it has inspired you. I'd love to know what action you're going to be taking after you've heard this episode, because as I always say, nothing is going to happen unless you take action. It's all well and good consuming these podcasts and all that stuff and getting inspired for a period of time, but if you don't actually go do anything about it, you're just wasting your time listening to this right now, and I don't want you to be a time waster. As a listener of the Business Meets Fitness podcast, you are an action taker, so I want you to take some action right now. Do what you got to do, and again, please do share this episode. It means the world to me, and don't forget to give me a quick little review, because getting the reviews is awesome. It helps me out so much. Let's get this podcast on the charts. Please tell your friends about it. It would be so cool if we could somehow end up on the charts. And I know that I can't do that without your help, without the help of this amazing Business Meets Fitness tribe, the tribe of people who are all wanting to get better in their business, better in their fitness, and all that. So please do leave a review. It's not just helping me out, like perfectly just me, but it's also helping the whole entire community, because it means that I can get people who are more and more and more well respected and well known in the world of entrepreneurship, in the world of fitness and all that, if my podcast is getting higher chart reviews and all that stuff. Because if the podcast is more well-known people will want to come on it. So anyway, have an absolutely lovely day, and it has been a pleasure spending time with you. Have a great day. Remember to smile.